Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Brian. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from M. Really cool song, a lot of music theory stuff happening that I don't understand. See the video description. Apparently the whole song is microtonal. I don't know what that means. Help and enjoy. Alright. Microtonality. We're going to do a real quick crash course on this. We have 24 minutes of music ahead of us, so I don't want to take a lot of time. This is going to be ridiculously simplified and also incorrect in some ways, but it should get the general gist of ideas across to you so maybe you can understand microtonality. On a typical keyboard and in the usage of a lot of Western music throughout the years, we have used 12-tone equal temperament, which is basically if we take our root tone and our octave tone and take those sound waves and divide it by 12 for 12 equal segments, those will give us all the notes on our keyboard, on our piano. This is fair. It is equal. Every note has equal weight in the chord, but the ratios are not equal. The distance between the root and the fifth, the perfect fifth, is, if I remember correctly, a hair bit flat. Our perfect fourth is a hair bit sharp. Our ears are used to they're accustomed to these slight differentiations. We really don't hear it, but it is scientifically and technically happening. And so people have taken a million different ways to break up the 12 notes into various different divisions in order to create more perfect ratios between specific intervals. If you decide not to use 12 notes though, you decide to use more, that's when we reach microtonality. And it comes from the idea that, as I mentioned, our fifth in the key of C major is G. Our G is not really the G, it is a G. And like I said, I think it's a hair bit, I say flatter? It's a hair bit flatter than the perfect fifth. So it's not a perfect G. It's a G with a little bit of flatness to it. So what if you broke up the G into G1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you made 5 notes out of this area that is generally taken as G in most temperaments, in most divisions. What if you did that with every note? And instead of breaking it up into 12 notes, we broke it up into, in this case, 29 notes, where our root has an interval of 1 to 1. It is just itself. And our octave is an interval of 2 to 1. It is exactly twice as fast of a wavelength of an audio wave, which produces a sound that is 1 octave higher. And you just divide everything up in between so that you get 29 equal notes. Well, 29 notes. This is not equal temperament. Not every ratio is equal. That's what we're talking about in this track. We're looking at the song Witchcraft by Zhea Erose. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I also see that that might be a stage name. It says that the Amelia Huff is the person who did the tuning, synthesis, composition, arrangement, mixing, mastering, artwork, and performance on this. She goes so far as to list all of her tunings for her 29-tone temperament, her microtonality here. Additionally, she uses an 8-tone idea as well, which I think is really interesting because the 8th tone is above the octave and the 7th tone is below the octave. We don't have a note in here that is precisely the octave of our root like we do in our 29 tone. That is what microtonality is all about. If you need to think about it specifically against the Western idea of the 12 tones, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, all the way up to B, we're finding the tones between the keys. What is the note between the F and the F sharp? What about the E and the F? Let's find some sounds between there. That's microtonality, and that's what we're working with here. We have a song that is 3 movements long, the first one being Sonder, the second one being Witchcraft, the third being Forever. Each one is, we got about a 7-minute, and a 10-minute, give or take. I could not find this on Spotify, so we won't have the little timer down here. You'll have to keep track of that time on your own. Although I will have this little thing over here, though I know it's really small, especially if you're on a phone. Yeah, let's dive into that. I'm curious if I'll be able to hear when the 29 tone and the 8 tone change, because it mentions this piece is further proof of concept illustrating my harmonic scale approach and near equal just intonation approach. I use 2 primary tunings throughout, and I wonder if they get overlapped or if they are completely separate. Also, I suppose I should go into the concept of just intonation, since down here in the vocal paragraph it says the vocals are in just intonation, but I accept organic tuning errors. Just intonation, if I remember correctly, is the strive to get perfect ratios. So your root and your fifth is going to be a perfect 3:2 ratio. Is that what the perfect fifth is? And stuff like that. Trying to achieve the perfect tones for all the notes, which is going to clash against the microtonality quite clearly. But as she states, I accept organic tuning errors. There's going to be some dissonance throughout here. Even also organic tuning errors. Is that issues where the voice doesn't precisely hit the right note? When dealing with just intonation at this level, it's extremely difficult to sing pure. The resolution of control our vocal philosophy offers quickly gets outpaced by resolution of harmonic possibility. Therefore, I do my best to sing the JI as I want, the just intonation, but accept error in the voice. I'm targeting several lower complexity intervals in the voice, tuning to the ensemble's complex just intonation, and singing more complex just intonation targets not listed in either tuning. All right. Very complex way to say that there's going to be some dissonance in this track, and that it is more or less acceptable and or intentional. So, I think this is the longest preamble I've ever had. I don't think I've had to talk for 8.5 minutes before getting into a reaction. We do have 24 minutes of music ahead of us, and then probably a half an hour or more analysis discussion. We're looking at an hour-long video easily. Let's dive into this. Microtonality and I don't always get along, but I'm always down to see what people are doing with it, as it's usually an interesting idea, an interesting track, interesting execution. It's just always something that intrigues me. Let's dive into it. Witchcraft. I wonder if it's the specific tuning here. I know I didn't finish that thought. I'll get back to it. I promise. Interesting using the 12-beat phrase on this. And the drums are implying 4/4 here, so it's not like it's 4 bars of 3. We're working with 3-bar phrases. It all comes together in a very fluid way, though, despite the friction against the expected phrasing, especially given the electronic sounds. I think it's 11/8 right there. So playful, experimental with the tone, and also getting playful with a lot of the rhythmic ideas, phrasing, meter. Gotta take notes so I don't forget anything later. This is a lot less dissonant than I was expecting, given my other experience with microtonal music. I love the echoey reverb. Sorry, the airy echo. I can't even think with this. moments in this that I forget that we're working with the non-12 tone. Oh, I love the production on that whisper. That bass tone was just a hair behind the beat, and it felt like the song was trying to rip apart for a moment. We've recently moved into the witchcraft phase of this. That was about a minute ago. Oh, what a transition. Very soothing section off of the abrasive noises in our last one. The unpredictable element of the movements of the notes in pitch, in direction, in panning almost makes it feel like it's alive. Less so creating music and more like recording an organic event. I am sort of missing the denser harmonic elements and lead melody from Sonder, but I'm really curious how this is going to wrap up in our final movement. That feeling of weightlessness, like gravity just cut out. And we are now in forever. Really interesting harmony bed down here. There's a lot of really neat character going on with it. It is simultaneously in a place of consonance and dissonance. It feels neutral. I forgot to bring this. There's some field recording stuff in the last section as well. Tape clicks, stuff. I love how it's kind of worked its way into the track. It started out separate in my ears, but now it's the percussion. Back to the 11. It's not 11/8, is it? No, it's a hair bit longer than that. Is it possible she's working in 23/16? No, that is such a wild time signature. I love the trajectory of this track so far. I mean, we still have 5 minutes ahead of us, but if we keep moving in this direction, it's going to be a gorgeous story. I can't even call these chromatic rise. Well, is it? Yeah. All right. I love the shifting movement of the second snare hit in each bar. Plays around with the rhythm so nicely. Huh.
I'm sorry. I'm stuck here. Like this. Forever. What do I say about something that completely changes my entire view and understanding of something? How can I properly put this experience into words? As I had mentioned early on, a lot of this is more consonant than I would expect from microtonality. And I'm really happy that M brought this to my attention. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I still take black metal requests and other genres that I'm not a real big fan of, because eventually something's going to click, something's going to make sense to me. And this, I think, is the track that is going to make microtonality click for me. In the past, a lot of microtonality we've listened to has been on the more dissonant side, the more avant-garde side. really pushing the boundaries of not necessarily sound, but oh, this is a weird deja vu going on right here. Pushing the boundaries of sound in a way that is frictional to my listening, what I prefer to listen to. I like dissonance as a flavor, but not usually as the main course, and a lot of microtonality tends to thrive within that dissonant element, or the microtonality I've been introduced to, which I will admit tends to stand on the more avant-garde side of things, and what I've been given tends to be more within the realm of metal, and avant-garde metal likes to be noisy, so maybe that was the problem right there. Maybe there is a lot of microtonal music like this, where the dissonance is incorporated, it is an aspect of it, but it is not the core component. Or maybe it just is the tuning itself, which was an idea I floated much earlier in the video, and I don't know that I got around to expressing myself on that. But it could just be that the ratio choices that are in this. Oh, I totally forgot there was the eight tone. Totally forgot about that one. I never even got around to listening if there was a moment where um, the tuning was changed. But yeah, I wonder if this 29 tone idea right here just happens to be more balanced. Is that a word we can use? Than other microtonal tunings. I mean, the thing is once you move away from 12 tone, you can kind of do whatever you want, and there's an basically infinite amount of world out there into what you can create. And it could just be that other tracks I've listened to utilize tuning structures that introduce more dissonance and that. Although technically it's not dissonance. As I mentioned earlier, technically, in our 12 tone equal temperament system, our notes aren't the right note, anyways. Our G's aren't perfectly G, our A's aren't perfectly A. It's sort of like if you get a crayon out of a box, Crayola has like, I don't know, 70 shades of red now. You can find one that's really close to red, but it might not be, but it'll be good enough for your fire truck that you're coloring, right? I don't know why I took this like way down the kid level. And that's kind of where our G is. Our G right now is good enough. But also our ears are used to hearing that good enough. It is technically dissonant. It isn't perfectly in tuned. Um, but over the years of hearing this tuning structure, we kind of disregard the imperfections in it. And so, whenever you listen to a different tuning, your ears have to adapt to the new values, to the new sounds, the new characteristics of these notes. And some of them are going to sound wrong, even if they're not. And so, I've been saying dissonance a lot throughout this video, but that technically isn't always true about everything. It could just be that what I'm hearing is different than what I'm used to. And that segues into what I was leading into here is I wonder if this 29 tone scale is just closer of an approximation of what my ears used to hearing. That the intervals that are crafted here aren't just more consonant, but with the subjective additive of more consonant for my ears.
Regardless, there were still some tones in here that would be described as dissonant, that create the warble in the sound, but I wouldn't say that there was any moment that I think really leaned heavily into it in a way that I typically think of when I think of microtonal. This is a song that, for a vast majority of the runtime, is pleasant to my ears. It does sound different, but it's different in a way that tickles the brain. I hear these sounds and I'm hearing a brand. It's like going back to the art thing. Let's deal with this. Imagine you've been using an 8 pack of crayons your entire life, and someone gives you the 36 pack with the crayon sharpener in the side of it, and your world just exploded. You can color with 4 shades of green. You have green yellow and yellow green now, and they're the same, but they're not. And sort of this opening of the mind, of understanding new possibility, is what my brain just got engaged in. My palette that I could potentially color with is much larger right now than it was a half hour ago. And that's not to say that I haven't heard things like this. We've done microtone on the channel before, but never have I walked away from it thinking I want to learn how to do this. I have a ukulele and I have a bass, and if I wanted to, I could play around with microtones on them by just ignoring the frets. Yeah, there's frets in the ukulele. But my keyboard, how do I do that? Do I need to buy a new key? I have seen microtonal pianos, and I think on the Discord somebody shared a video of someone playing microtonal jazz music on a piano, and I think it was specifically crafted. There are extra keys and stuff. I do have a mod wheel, but that's imprecise. I'm not going to get the exact same pitch every time. I want to try making something like this though. There's theory here that speaks to me, and I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? I have a typing keyboard with a lot of keys on it. It would be very different from a musical keyboard, but it would not be the first time I used something strange to make music before. All right, sorry. Bear with me. I know most of y'all come here for the music breakdowns. You want to know why the music is good to your ears, why you love it as much as you do. You want to hear what I think of the music. And right now I'm just talking about my music and what I want to make and stuff. And that's not usually why I think people come here, but it is where my mind is at right now. It's kind of difficult for me to focus on this track when it has unlocked this piece of my brain that I didn't know, and this piece of my brain is screaming. It's been silenced for how long have I been making music? 15 years? Something like that. Oh god, it's got to be more than geez, 20 years now. Something. It's been silent for a very long time. And it has a voice and it can't stop telling me to make stuff. It's kind of getting annoying, but I'm not going to quiet it. Not this time, not again. All right, the music. The music exists in 3 parts. The first and the last part, which are, what do we call it? Sonder and Forever, are parallels. There's sister sections. There's ideas that get repeated in Forever that start off in Sonder. We have variations of ideas. Most of our time signatures from Sonder show back up in Forever. It is very much a reprise, but with strong variation. It is more of like we'll take 40% of the ideas and completely rewrite the other 60%. It is really awesome to hear the callbacks in the brand new context. And the brand new context tends to be aspects of witchcraft, not any lines or rhythms taken wholesale. I don't think there's any
direct callbacks between Forever and Witchcraft, but there are ideas in general that are reused in different ways. It's almost like Witchcraft Remix, where the general vibe is the same, but everything about it is different. You can feel the parallels, but it's difficult to say this is that. It's more of this was influenced by that. In a way that it Forever almost ends up feeling like a conglomeration of both of the preceding sections. Sonder is very focused on atmosphere, lots of long melodic ideas, atmospheric concepts stemming from strong harmonic concepts. We have the harmonic bed, which is like ever present, just synths that form this harmony that sits on the bottom of the floor the bottom of the song for everything to be played over. Bright little fun ornamental ideas everywhere. It's very positive, bright. It's not perfectly positive though. There is the dissonance or the imperfections or the differences in intervals that my ear is hearing. I'm just going to refer to that whole concept as dissonance, and just bear in mind that that isn't technically accurate completely. But there is the dissonance, there is a darkness to it, there is an anxiety almost towards the end of it. It is almost like wonder against imposing doom, but it's invisible. The doom's invisible, and you're just filled with all this wonder, not realizing how close to danger you are. There's almost a naivety, actually, a childlike innocence to Sonder that I really love. I mean, the harmonic aspect, the emotional complexity, or the emotional aspect is very complex. It's a given as we have this more complex uh, microtonality at play. There's a lot of elements in here that I think couldn't be represented in 12 tone equal temperament. I mean, that's maybe you'd be able to achieve similar atmospheres, but I don't think that they would be as impactful. Just, I mean, you can make a really great painting with 3 colors, but you can also make a better painting with 6. And I think that's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. More is not always better, but in this case, more achieves greater detail. And the emotional complexity here is exceptionally detailed in a way that I don't think I have a strong read on. My idea of innocence and joy versus danger and impending doom, I think, is very simplistic for what it is, but it's the closest analogy I have, given that I'm not used to hearing these sounds, and maybe my relationship to these sounds and the emotions I apply to them is completely wrong, um, because I'm applying 12 tone ideas to a 29 tone music. So the emotions could be completely different. But that is sort of what I got out of this. And maybe the part of that is just me. The beginning of this track, I could feel some of the microtonality, but I even mentioned that sometimes I forget we're not working within 12 tone. There's so much of it that feels harmonious in a way that feels natural to my ears. It feels familiar, that I don't realize how close to microtonality I am. And it's not a danger per se, but I think there is an addiction there that once I realized it and this part of my brain opened up, I would want more of. So I don't know how much of myself I'm injecting into this opening segment. Maybe nobody else gets that innocence versus doom thing, and that's just me being me, but that is what it feels like to me. I love we'll hang on to that idea. This video is going to be longer than an hour. Just making that real clear right there. All right. The second section, witchcraft, eschews all of that. It says, you know what, we don't want harmony, we don't want melody, we don't want any of that. We're going to go for some very glitchy rhythmic ideas. And I'm not entirely certain that I loved this section. And I think I even mentioned that I was missing Saunders' melodic vibes. But I think Witchcraft is that doom, it's that danger, and it becomes present. It becomes present in a way that's palpable and completely overrides everything else. It's not just an increase of the weightier, glitchier, bigger sounds. And make no mistake that the percussive sounds in this section are massive compared to any of the other more aerial, ethereal tones we had in Sonder. But it's not just that they're here. It's not just that they're imposing. It's that everything else is gone and this is the only thing present. Whatever wonder and traditional elements of beauty and joy were found in Sonder are gone. It's a void in this place. All that's left is the glitch. And again, I'm seeing parallels with my listening experience here. Maybe I'm injecting myself into it again, but this was a section I wanted to get out of. I thought it was neat for the first minute, but by minute 4, 5, 6, I was kind of done with it. I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted back to that wonder that we were exploring in the first movement. I wanted back to the bright colors and the harmony and the wonderful melody line above it all. And we kind of got back there in Forever. Kind of. The glitchy rhythmic stuff came back as well. We sort of merged the two sounds together. But the innocence of Sonder was missing. And Forever is a bit heavier despite utilizing many of the same themes and motifs throughout Sonder in it. And this heaviness, I think, is growth. Is this a song about going through a metamorphosis? If we take the idea of childhood innocence, this could be a song about growing up, becoming an adult. Um, and that's, I know, a very stereotypical element of metamorphosis, but I think without knowing what the story is here, I think you could really apply it to anything where in the process of change, something is lost and something is gained. And that's exactly what Forever feels like. We do return to the complex harmonies. We have the melodies over top, but we've sort of lost the whimsy. And this is something I didn't really talk about much, but during Sonder, there's a ton of ornamental ideas. They're all over the place, whether it's a little vocal line, just 2 notes, boo boo, just something like that with like an echo or delay off of it, or, it's a synthesizer line, or it's just, a little twinkling of notes, like a series of 8/16 notes that have a rising pattern or something just off in the corner. There's a ton of ornamental ideas that give it a levity and a brightness, a sparkle that's missing here. There's something jaded about this track, or sorry, something jaded about this movement here. It's still bright and warm and comfy, but the darkness is more present and it's less glittery than it was before. There's a better understanding of both the positives or the brightness and the negative and the darkness of where we are. And through that, it feels like a maturation of the sound. Forever feels like where Sonder was eventually moving towards and where witchcraft transformed it into. If this were a math equation, Sonder plus witchcraft equals forever. It is a culmination of both of them, but it is neither of them. Just as 8 plus 5 is 13, 13 is not 8 or 5, but it has elements of 8 and 5 in it. There's also the production. I don't know that I have a lot to say on this in particular, anything critical, but I am a huge fan of everything that went in on this. There seems to be an extreme attention to detail on how sounds should sound and where they should sound and how they should sound after they're gone and how they should sound in tandem with other sounds. Everything is This is the side of electronic music that absolutely scares me because it's really easy for me to just say, I want a trumpet sound here, and then make a part for a trumpet. And then that's the end of my process of sound selection. And here there's so much attention to everything, the sound before the note, the sound after the note, where it's placed in the mix, panning wise, but also where it's placed in the mix, pitch wise, how much treble, how much bass you want. I mean, that's typical mixing, but it feels more important here. Some sounds get their, I'm going to be way out of my depth here, so let me know if I'm using the wrong phrase here. They get their envelopes tweaked in a way that make them sound narrow and flat, or sometimes large but thin, and they sort of, I mean, this is like electronic 101, but it just seems very, very intentional here to craft specific vibes at specific times. I wouldn't say that every moment of this song has this acute attention to it, but when things do get changed, when things are particularly placed where there wasn't something before, it feels like it has meaning. And on a first time listen, I can't tell you what all that meaning means. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it was just like a painting. It doesn't look quite perfect, so you put a little dot of white over there, and you're like, that's it. That white doesn't represent anything, but it brings the piece together. And it's a dot most people won't notice. But if you didn't put it there, you'd never forgive yourself. The track wasn't ready to be released without that little modification. I'm going to see if I can find some lyrics to this, and then we're going to wrap this video up. I honestly should have checked the description area at first. It says the lyrics are an impressionistic and reactionary impulse which spontaneously synthesizes my experience of the sound in a conceptual arc. There are lyrics, but everyone will hear something different. The effect of the music, then, will dictate how each person hears witchcraft. However, there is a small description here that somehow I missed. It's right above the tuning section and right below the movement timestamps. So I probably should have seen this and I didn't. This piece contains the conceptual and thematic climax of the full album. The song is of a harmonic witch who turns herself into sound and can't find her way back, ultimately accepting her fate in forever. There is an idea of metamorphosis here. I'm not sure what I experienced with the track 100% fits with the idea presented here, but I could probably make an argument for it. The beginning could be a ritual of sorts, leading into the transformation and the wonder and joy of becoming sound. But there is that little bit of dread, the doom that she's not quite aware of, which is the permanence of the transformation. And when that permanence is realized, that to me is witchcraft. Although, I guess technically, judging by titles, the witchcraft would be the ritual. Maybe. It really depends on the lyrics in Sonder. And they're up for interpretation. So I didn't hear any words. I was focusing on the notes and the pitches and reverb and all the effects. But anyways, so witchcraft would be the realization and trying to get out. And here's something really cool is at the end, we got a couple of those glitchy beats from Witchcraft. I think this was like 30 seconds before the end. And then spoken word, I'm sorry, I can't leave here. I'm sorry, I'm stuck here. Something like that. And it reminded me of old like 90s horror films when people would get stuck in TVs or arcade cabinets or whatever, and they would bang on the glass from the inside out, and it would sort of warble the screen, whether it's, the snow static of no signal or, whatever's being displayed, and it would always have this warpy, glitchy sound. And that's kind of what it reminded me of, was somebody trying to break free the very last time from the inside of whatever it means to be sound. And going from that perspective, witchcraft does feel like the realization I'm stuck here and trying to leave, and all of the arrhythmic aspects of it is just banging on things, trying to break out of this reality, this form of being. I don't know if that's the authorial intent, and judging by a lot of the way that she speaks about this song, the authorial intent is not important to her. At least, it's not important to her if the listener understands the authorial intent. I'm sure she has her own reading of this. As I mentioned, everything feels very handcrafted. I think everything has a meaning. But it does change my read of Forever. If that is the culmination of the metamorphosis, if that is the moment where the wonder of Sonder and the anxiety of witchcraft meet, and Forever is the maturation of this idea that this person realizes they're stuck here and are trying to accept it, and maybe there even is a level of acceptance here. The joy and brightness of it doesn't quite resonate too well with the resignation of the final line. I can't leave here, I'm sorry. I don't know if my read of it then is something that I would want to delve further into. It's always and permanently going to be my first experience with this track. But given the final vocal line, I don't know that I can read the final movement the way that I did, and I think on subsequent listens I may try to find a different meaning out of this. Those are my thoughts on Zhea Erose's Witchcraft. Again, I hope I got the name semi right in the pronunciation. I looked at interviews, tried to find interviews, and nobody ever seems to say her name. So Uh, just got to go with my gut. Thank you, M, for bringing this to my attention. If you watched the whole hour, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was a good video for your suggestion. And honestly, I mean, Amelia, since I can pronounce that name properly, I think, thanks for making this. I mean, this is just, I don't even know if she's going to watch this or even get this far, but this is eye opening. Like I said, I think this is the first microtonal song that has clicked with me in a way that makes me want to explore it. And I don't know how. Um, in the comments, let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your perspectives. Let me know your read of this song if you have one that's different than mine. Or if you have one that's the same as mine. Hey, Brian, I agree with you. Above the comment section in the description box, you can find a link to my music, which is a little easier to understand, a little bit more on the nose, and all of it in 12 tone. You can also find ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. If you'd like, drop by tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to continue along with this week's theme of experimental music, which I just realized that this wasn't even part of the themed week, but it fits in perfectly. Just a really great, lucky circumstance. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. That was the wrong button. I apologize. You're going to have to stare at me for like 20 more seconds. I'm just going to kind of talk my way through this and kill some time. Because if I do this in any other... Okay, they're gone. See you guys.